Someone was criticizing your raps.
Huh?
Someone was criticizing your flow, your rap.
When is it?
I saw something you posted, like that. People say, you know, real hip hop is what?
Yeah. Some guy was saying, no, I'm not even a rapper. I'm just a guy trying to pass off some stuff about science and hip hop. Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to yet another episode of my podcast. And in today's episode, I have somebody that needs no introduction because this is somebody I've talked to countless times. And we thought it right to just have an episode where we talk about all these important things. And today I feel actually privileged to have him on my podcast for the first time. And so to kickstart the conversation, I just want to ask, how's your day going and how's things?
Well, things are good. My day is going well. I went to the gym to steam a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then, just to steam because on when was it? On Friday, I went there and my muscles are hurting. So I thought, let me just steam today.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, everything is okay.
And gymming is something I've also been trying to get into, but I'm pretty lazy. Somebody even suggested they should pay for me, like for a monthly subscription, but I don't know. It feels like for you to be consistent with going to the gym, you need like a workout partner or something.
Yeah, some people do that. For me, really, gym is about relieving myself of stress. My day job is quite stressful, so whenever I go to the gym, I steam, I feel better.
Yeah.
But then I picked up an alcohol habit
Yeah.
a few years ago, and I think
relieve yourself.
yes, and then I've noticed that I've been growing some weight around the tummy area.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna try and have this sorted out through gym.
All right.
Yeah, you can come with me if you want. I gym at Pamodzi. They have very good facilities.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
No, I can always come with you as long as you're going to pay for my subscription.
Not a problem. That's not a problem.
Yeah, so there's people that are already familiar with you but don't know half of your story, your journey. So before we get into that, I'd like to give people the chance to give their own biography. Because that way you don't get it wrong or you don't miss out certain things that come across to them as very important. So like, who is Keith Hamusute? Where have you studied? What type of person are you? And how has been the experience of everything that you studied, the places you've been to, and how that has shaped your growth as well as influenced you to be the author you are today? Just give us like an insider. I know I've asked a lot of things, but find a way to just marry them together and then put them in a way that is comprehensive to all of us.
Wow. Okay, in a few sentences. So Keith Hamusute is a Zambian to start with. He studied at the University of Zambia. At the University of Zambia, I studied economics and public administration. I was lucky enough to get a very good degree, which allowed me to get a scholarship to further my studies in South Korea. I was there for about 1.5 years. Upon coming back to Zambia, I got a job in a bank, and that's where I still work. I currently manage the risk portfolio for that bank.
Okay.
Beyond that, I'm an author. My first novel was published in what was that, 2021 or 2020?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Because of the pandemic, we had to keep on pushing the date. Yeah. It's some people have described it as a historical novel.
Yeah.
Well, you could say that, but for me, it's a satire on religion.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is the underlying deeper meaning to it. It's a satire on religion. It's a coming of age kind of book. I was lucky enough that my peers in the Zambian literary circles awarded me with the best novel during the Tell Our Own Stories Awards in December last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't even get those awards, which speaks to the type of person I am. On first meeting me, you'd think I'm outgoing and so forth, but I'm actually more reserved. I someone who prefers their own company to being with others, unless, of course, we're discussing important things.
Exactly. And,
yeah.
I think there's a lot that you've said and there's a lot that I can pick from. But to start off, you had first talked about you studying in North Korea.
South.
Oh, South.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm preempting this. I thought, crazy. North Korea.
No.
How's it going to be?
I've nothing to do with Kim Jong-un. I studied in South Korea.
South Korea. How's the experience there? The dynamics of the people there in comparison to here? And some of the similarities before I get into touching the book and how it's been writing the book. How's life in South Korea?
Well, South Korea is kind of a cosmopolitan nation. Well, in comparison with the North side, because the North is communist. South Korea is capitalist. It's a bustling city with a lot of young people, although the older population is actually more because, I don't know, people take long to start having families in there.
Yeah.
But also, I found it to be a very secular society.
Oh.
Yeah, quite secular. There's a lot of people that are Buddhist, but with Buddhism, they hardly, if at all, they don't go to worship like every weekend and so forth. No, it's one of those things that you do on your own. Yeah, but in terms of the main working demographics, they are very secular. A number of them actually openly atheist. And also, one thing I noticed about them is a very, very relentless and fierce work ethic.
Okay.
South Koreans can work and work hard. They'll be knocking off work at midnight and so forth, but also they drink hard after working hard. Yeah. Very tech society. Everywhere you go, whatever mall you find, there's going to be some Wi-Fi, it's going to be what? Very highly industrialized, and really a nation that is on the up. A quick fact about South Korea is that around 1964, when Zambia was getting independent, Zambia had a higher per capita GDP than South Korea. But currently, South Korea is miles and miles ahead of Zambia. It's now a developed nation. It can offer aid, can even offer scholarships to 14 people like me. Yeah.
And always when I'm talking to people who've traveled across the border, or they've been privileged enough to get exposed to other people's cultures and all these things, usually my interest is how people's views there are influenced geopolitically, as well as just how they take social issues and how they handle them in comparison to our country. It's always interesting to find out how it's like a window of how other people orchestrate their lives. So you giving that insight there is something that strikes me as very interesting. And then something I'd like to press on before we dive into the book and our primary topic is, so you said it's 90% of it is secular in nature.
Yes.
What do you think what do you think are some of the geopolitical influences why that's the case? Or is it because of or would you say it's because the way their academia is arranged kind of plays into how they have such a secular state, or is it something just that can be narrowed down to how their constitution is put together?
Well, I don't think it's anything to do with the constitution, because the constitution is kind of prescriptive. But I think it's a result of, because what they treasure most above everything else in terms of the qualities that an academic must have is curiosity, asking questions, challenging authority, if you will, challenging precedents. And the more you push that, you get to a point where there's no topic that is off the hook. There's no topic that is taboo. You challenge everything from religion to social norms, to everything. So that ultimately what you have is a society that is constantly asking questions. Because remember, we are where we are because some people dared ask questions and dared find answers for those questions. We know what we know now about the earth. We know what we know now about humanity. We know what we know now about others because some people ask questions. So I found that through and through constantly in South Korea. The other thing that I noticed when I got there, because they gave us a math test, a base test, so that they could just know our levels in terms of our understanding of, your basic, the math that you use in economics, calculus and so on, probability theory. So about 60% of us, failed to make the baseline, and then the 40, which included myself, are the ones that made the baseline. Now, typically, if you came to, I don't know about now, but the time when I was at UNZA, once you fail, really, that would spell the end of your interest in that particular academic pursuit. But what they did, they said, no, don't worry, if you fail this test, we're going to arrange, intensive extra lessons that will bring you up to speed, such at the same level as your friends. So I found the way they approached academics really, one that is geared towards trying to help, trying to be the best that you can be for these students, and allowing them to ask as many questions as possible. The other thing is that the classes were very, very small. They were limited. Your class could not exceed 10 people. So he had that rapport with the professors. Yeah.
Okay, that's actually something commendable. You understand? I mean, people need to be pushed further. Yes. Sometimes somebody gets out of failure really broken.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to just get them to the place where they used to be.
True.
So now, getting to the book, what's been the experience like writing a book as an author and publishing in Zambia? And also, why did you have to choose to lay out perhaps its underpinnings on religion, and why do you think it comes across to people as a historical book as opposed to what you would say was the original intent? And perhaps before you answer the question, I just wanna show people the copy of the book. So this is a book. It's called "The Ghosts Came to Dinner and Never Left." Pretty interesting title, if you ask me. So let's start right at the top. Why the title? Before you answer the question I asked prior to that.
So the title really is a play on some of these things that we seek to forget, but which merely entrenches them in us. Like I play on the imagery of a ghost, that comes to dinner, but does not leave. So you see that the book deals with a number of such themes around the times when they got independent. So there are a number of issues that happened at the time, the number of events that happened, and the idea in the title is to say that all those things that happened have never really left, and that there's closure that is needed. It is premised, there's a part of the book really that goes quite into detail on the Lumpa Church in Chinsali in 1964 and what happened. Yes, so-called Lumpa uprising and what happened around that. So yes, and you notice on the cover page there's a camera, there's a Bible, there's footprints, and there's
stains of blood.
Yeah, stains of blood. Yeah. So that speaks to the main themes in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, but like to answer your question, why most people think it's a historical novel? Well, it's because it's a historical novel. But I think in my writing I wanted a much deeper conversation around the themes that are in the book. For example, what really constitutes religion. How do you measure religiosity, if I can call it that? How do you measure piety? Because you note that in the book there comes a point where there's discrimination among certain characters on the account of them not being as religious as the others. So the question is, how do you measure that? You are not God, so to say. You don't know what is in a person's heart. So there are such themes in there.
Interesting. And talking about measuring religiosity, it's something that's so fluid. You can't even know for a fact.
No.
Perhaps the only measuring line would be like the amount of practice and devotion that you put into, say, their customs or the way they apply those codes, religious codes or precepts to their lives. Perhaps that could be like a measuring line for how somebody is given to the religion, or how somebody isn't. I don't know. Arguably.
I don't know. But unfortunately, that only measures perception.
Okay.
Because you see, the way religious piety is premised. It's premised on a conversion that happens in the heart. Okay, and then that is manifested through outward behavior. But then outward behavior can't exist without that particular religious conversion. Because if you're going to say you measure it according to, say, for example, how the so-called fruits of the Holy Spirit, how someone loves, how someone is kind, and so on, you are going to tell me that it's impossible for someone to be kind or love if they do not have that conversion inside their heart. But we've seen it. Some of the best philanthropic pursuits have been achieved by people that don't even believe in God.
True.
So it becomes difficult. So like in this case, there's a story of a man who was an elder in a church. I don't name the church, but it's kind of a stereotype of the SDA church. Okay. So he used to keep cattle. So one of his animals died. Okay. The man did not know that SDAs do not feed on animals that die for themselves. So they got a huge chunk of very choice meat and gave it to the pastor. and the pastor ate the meat together with his family. But then someone went behind and told the pastor, like, hey, the meat that you consumed, just died on its own. Yeah, it was not slaughtered. And on that basis, the pastor decided to summon this guy and have him excommunicated from the church. So he asked several questions when they finally get to a point where they bring him before a disciplinary hearing. Like, okay, tell me, how did the meat taste? Did you like it? Did it cause you to get sick? And why is it you that is getting offended? Why is it not God who's getting offended? Yeah. So to some people, that would be just a naughty story that I'm telling. But in my view, I just want people to ask certain questions behind this. Yeah.
And the best way to like show the validity or invalidity of these religious precepts and stories is to ask probing questions. Sometimes the questions aren't even so probing, but it's just simple why questions.
Yes. Why?
And the further you try to push some explanatory power on this, they become slightly upset,
Yes, they become very defensive. I don't know why.
Exactly. But today's conversation isn't primarily about the book. I think we need a whole episode where we just talk about the book.
Yes, yeah.
I think that will be a part 2, perhaps.
Yeah.
And where we just go in depth about the book, break it in parts, talk about it. And of course, that will require that I actually finish the book, which is embarrassing on my part because I got it for quite some time. And
well, he told me you have this habit of reading 2 pages and then shoving it.
Yes, which is something I need to work on. But I need to go back to the book and have like a more substantial conversation.
Sure.
So today, what we primarily wanted to talk about is social constructs. And this is something that came up through our conversation. He suggested that why not talk about social constructions and how they play about society, how they play about what it is we ascribe importance to, meaning to, and how we go about chatting our way to understanding more of like objective reality. Yeah. So to kickstart that conversation, what are social constructs, or what's a social construct?
Yeah, thanks, Siraf. So a social construct basically is a creation of society, okay, that is basically not found in terms of its creation. It's not tangible, okay, it's not a physical creation. Yeah. Some of the social constructs that you find, for example, the judicial system, that's a social construct. Yeah. Marriage is a social construct. The idea of a company is a social construct. Religion is a social construct. And there are a lot of other social constructs. Now, yes, they are all social constructs. Now, even time, okay, is a social construct. The idea that there's 60 seconds in a minute.
It's agreed upon.
Yes, agreed upon. Yes, a shared meaning. Even the idea of money itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yeah. Because without the trust and the shared importance, the shared value that you attach to money, it's just a beautifully decorated paper. Yeah, that's all it is. Now, social constructs are important, okay, because they ascribe a certain type of order to society. Then they also help in dispute resolution. They also help in attaching ownership and meaning to certain aspects of society that otherwise would just be fluid. Yeah. Okay. Now, social constructs also birth their own sub-constructs, For example, issues like patriotism. Patriotism talks about this devotion to a country.